big part of our lives. From books to homework assignments, we need to read a lot. But reading isn't just found in school. Reading is important in our everyday lives as well. We read road signs, menus at restaurants, price tags, and even labels on foods. We don't usually realize how important reading is because it comes so naturally to us. We learned how to read when we were younger, and now our brains process the words easily with little effort. But what if that wasn't the case? What if we couldn't see words as they are meant to be seen? About 1 in 10 people have dyslexia. Dyslexia affects the way people read, write, and spell. Dyslexia comes from the root words dys, meaning difficult, and lexia, meaning word or language. Dyslexia is known for causing letters to look backwards, but that's not always the case. Dyslexia is a different experience for different people. Different dyslexics see their words differently. Some see them backwards, others upside down. Some people even see their words getting bigger and bigger. Others see the words getting smaller and smaller. Some people see the words all jumbled up, and some even see their words moving right off of the page. The severity of dyslexia isn't the same for every dyslexic. Dyslexia can possibly include other types of symptoms as well. Some dyslexics have directional problems. They confuse their right and their left. Multi-step directions can be extremely difficult for them to follow. Some lack hand-eye coordination or even concentration. Dyslexia can affect someone socially as well. People with dyslexia tend to be socially immature compared to their peers. This can cause them to show lack of ability to read social cues. They won't notice people's body language and might even pop their bubbles of personal space. Dyslexia can also affect their oral language. Sometimes they can struggle to find the right words, stumble over their words, or even give delayed or slower responses. This can make them feel and look awkward in social situations. Dyslexia can also affect the child's relationship with their parents growing up. Some parents will ignore the signs and deny the chance of their child having dyslexia. This can cause the parent to be tough on their child and tell them they need to work harder, while other parents could have struggled with the same problems growing up, so they are reliving depressing past memories, which can affect the way they parent their child. It can also affect the child's relationship with their siblings growing up. If the parents are giving the dyslexic child more attention to help them with their school, the child's siblings could become jealous and upset with them, even if the dyslexic child doesn't want all that attention. Dyslexia can also affect the way a dyslexic looks at themselves. Some may be told that they are being lazy and aren't trying hard enough for school, when they are actually working really hard. This can make them feel stupid, like they aren't capable of much. But dyslexia doesn't have to hold them back. They don't have to be defined by their disability. Pablo Picasso, famous painter. Tom Cruise, well-known actor. Magic Johnson, basketball Hall of Famer. Steven Spielberg, famous director. All of these individuals made outstanding accomplishments, and they had dyslexia. Dyslexics shouldn't be expected to live simple lives. They can accomplish anything they set their mind to. Dyslexia has many effects on people's relationships and their everyday life, but how does dyslexia affect the actual brain itself? Our brains are made up of gray matter and white matter. The gray matter is what we would see when we look at the brain. It's on the outside of the brain and it is mostly made up of nerve cells. It's in charge of processing information. The white matter is on the inside of the brain and is made up of connective fibers covered in myelin. Its job is to transfer information around the brain. Studies have shown that patients with dyslexia have less gray matter in the parietal temporal area of their brain. This causes them to experience problems processing the sound structure of language. In many cases, patients with dyslexia also have less white matter in that same area of their brain. This causes a lack of efficient communication between different areas of the brain. Brain imaging studies have compared the differences between the brain of a non-impaired reader and a dyslexic reader. When reading, a non-impaired reader's brain activates the Broca's area, parietal-temporal, and occipitotemporal areas of the brain, while a dyslexic reader's brain fails to activate the parietal-temporal and occipital-temporal it only activates the Broca's area. There have been many studies on dyslexia, and dyslexia has become widely known over the years. But this reading disability wasn't always known. In 1878, Adolf Kussmaul, who was a German neurologist, was interested in people who had problems with reading and also had neurological impairments. He noticed that many of his patients couldn't read properly and frequently used words in the wrong order. He called this word blindness. It wasn't until 1887 that German ophthalmologist Rudolf Berlin used the word dyslexia instead of word blindness. In 1925, Dr. Samuel T. Orton made the first theory on how these reading difficulties arose. In this theory, he placed a lot of emphasis on the dominance of one side of the brain. Many different kinds of learning disabilities were being researched during this time period. In 1939, Dr. Alfred Strauss and R. Heinz Werner published their findings about children with a vast range of learning difficulties. In their published work, they emphasized the variety of disabilities and the importance of individually assessing each child's needs based on their disability. This allows children to get help for what they're actually struggling with. The cause of dyslexia is not fully agreed upon. There are many different ideas and theories about the cause of dyslexia out there. Some believe that dyslexia results from poor hearing. If you can't hear how words or letters are pronounced, then you would have trouble reading them. Others believe it could possibly be from a virus or disease that was passed on to an unborn baby during the mother's pregnancy, or even just passed down genetics of fellow dyslexic family members. Another interesting belief on the cause of dyslexia has to do with the different sides of our brains. You are all probably familiar with the idea of the left side and the right side of our brain. The left side is known to be more logical, mathematical, and organized, while the right side is known to be more creative and artistic. Well, some believe that dyslexia can be caused by slower brain development. They suggest that the dyslexia occurs because the left side of their brain is developing slower than their right side, causing their language skills to decrease. It's fascinating to hear all the different ideas and theories people have on the cause of dyslexia. I was given the opportunity to interview two awesome people. The one woman has a son with dyslexia and shared with me how his dyslexia affects him while doing school. She suspected her son had dyslexia when he was about 5 years old. Some of the toughest parts about homeschooling her son has been trying to teach him abstract concepts or trying to help him see his mistakes. For example, if he made a math error, he wouldn't understand why it was wrong. He would insist that his answer was right. He knew the concept, but couldn't read the number correctly, so his answer would end up being wrong. She tries to use more of a mastery method of learning and uses as many hands-on techniques as possible. He is also a very strong auditory learner, so it helps him when he listens to what he's learning. He is also very much a kinesthetic learner, so he also enjoys moving around while listening. His favorite subjects in school are history and science. He also enjoys moving around in gym, but with his lack of hand-eye coordination, it can be a problem sometimes. His least favorite subjects in school are reading and writing. The other woman who has dyslexia is 28 years old and gave me a little insight in how her dyslexia affected her growing up and how it affects her to this day. She was about 6 or 7 when her parents discovered she had dyslexia. Growing up, learning was very tough for her. Her mother would try to make learning fun by turning it into a game. One way she would do this was by putting her times tables to nursery rhymes. Even to this day, she struggles with learning because she has to read everything out loud. And when reading, she still needs to sound things out sometimes to read it correctly. In many cases, it was just better for her to have someone read it to her instead of her reading it herself. Throughout her life, she has struggled with spelling and handwriting as well. She learns better through hands-on activities and when someone shows her how to do something before she does it herself. Growing up, she would feel stupid a lot. Even to this day, she needs to ask the same questions a lot, and she feels like a child trying to learn. It was really cool to hear both of their stories. I have really enjoyed learning about dyslexia. It's a fascinating topic that I have learned so much about through this project. I hope I was able to share some new knowledge about the subject with you as well.